Morning, folks. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Few early birds already on. While things are warming up, I'll do the quick hellos. Morning, Alison. Always good to see you on in the mornings, Deb. And a couple of keen beans as well in the Facebook land. Welcome to the Friday Wealth Coffee Chat. Friday, as they say. Hey, today we're going to do part 2. Yesterday I talked about the idea of, increasing our rents and how we could do something to them, or to our properties, or get on top of things, a small amount of money to get a larger return. We talked about yesterday getting 50% cash on cash return by doing something to our properties. So today we're going to dive deeper into the short-term letting world, Airbnb, stays, whatever. We've got a guest on in a minute. So hang around. Make sure you do the do. We've got our good friend Cash Osted from the property management team at Positive and R&W. He'll be on in a second when we get things warmed up. Big hello to Bryce, Kevin, all the way from Florida. Good to see you, mate. Sonia, Jeff, a few people in the house. Good to see you. Hey, listen, the idea at some point we would like to get our incomes up and accelerating is a good one, right? And why is that so? Well, at the end of the day, folks, for all of us, what's the major goal? Put this in the chat for me right now. For you as a property investor, yes, capital growth is excellent. We're happy to receive capital growth. But really, at the end of the day, what's the point? What's the financial outcome that we want from our real estate when, into the future? Capital growth is great. You can't necessarily eat it, use it to buy you a coffee. What do you want? What sort of thing do you want from your properties? Put that in the chat for me, because for most of us, the point of owning real estate is to create waiting, drum roll. I think I've got some sound effects around here somewhere. Let me see. Drum roll. Anybody? All right. There's a delay. Let's see as we go. We want cash flow, right? We want positive cash flow. We want passive income. We want our properties to create. There we go. Sonia's on it. Sonia's the winner. Go, Sonia. We want capital growth with a good, healthy dusting of cash flow, and Alison, cash flow in acquisitions. Exactly. The point in acquisition stage is that your property returns its deposit so you can use it on another property. That is for sure. In the acquisition stage, you've already got an income. Well, you should have, because you won't get a loan if you don't. You need a job or you need something creating income. But later on, we want income from our real estate. End of story. That's what we want. And, as we go, folks, how can we accelerate our income? What can we do? We're going to have a bit of a look at that in a moment. But I'm just going to pull up pull up this. Let me see. I'm going to change mine. Hang on 2 seconds. I thought I was organized this morning, but you know what? I'm not. Here we go. Let's see. I'll do the entire screen is what I need. There we go. Forgot to share the right thing. All right, here we go. So if we're looking at our properties, and let's say you guys have seen this little calculator before, our little passive income calculator, and we're saying, all right, look down the bottom here. We've got our few properties. We've, done our thing in acquisition phase. We've got our principal place of residence. We've got, 3, 4, 5 investment properties over a 5-10 year period, and we're aiming for $100,000 passive income. You can see it up here. We're like, oh, well, we're not quite there. We've got sort of 15 years in and, growth has been fantastic. We've got capital growth. We're happy with that. But our cash flow is not quite there. What can we do to accelerate that cash flow? This is a bit of a case study here, and Cass is going to come on in just a second, but I'm going to show you, quite easily we could double our weekly income from short-term letting. And if you just change those two properties, let's say these two properties at the bottom were appropriate for short-term letting. Let's say you had one in Brisbane and one in Melbourne, one in Perth, whatever it was, and you could short-term let those properties to accelerate your cash flow. If you look up here, the passive income went from about $50,000 a year to about $160,000 a year when it came to our passive income. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So how do we get there and how do we navigate? What's the practicalities? What can we start with? So let me bring on our guest this morning, Cass. Here he is. Cass, mate. Good to have you on Wealth Coffee Chats, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Morning, everyone. Morning.
Mate, important. Have you got coffee, or did I catch you on the hop and you didn't even get your coffee? There you go.
Definitely need it.
Mate, so short-term letting, you've been in the world of property management for quite a while. And in the last year and a bit, we've been putting together the property management concept for our positive clients for short-term letting, and we've had some excellent successes. But can I get you to talk through with the folks today? Let's just, before we get into sort of detail, what do you see as a kind of a startup cost, an expense and investment for an Airbnb? So let's have a look at this. What's it going to take, for number one, what's the dollars involved to turn your property from short-term to long-term if someone's thinking about it right now?
Yeah, I think, look, it's good to note from the fundamental point of view that, there's a lot of moving elements to short stays.
Yep.
I'd say the biggest investment, you as the owner are going to make to obviously push forward with short stay is going to be your furniture package. I would say. For a lot of clients we meet, obviously we discuss whether it's an A-grade property or location, and there's a lot of other moving, elements to it. But the number one thing that might hold someone back could be around the furniture investment, and that can range from, 15, 16 grand up to sort of, I've seen some packages that are at the 30K range, right? So it's good to know that that's the investment you're going to put through up front to get this started, obviously. I truly believe from the research we've done, the data we see, and then obviously experiencing it and seeing client success is that you don't want to cut corners. You want to do this the right way.
You want a nice furniture pack. You don't want to end up, with a problem, right? Yeah.
And have a think about, Jace, like who's the actual guest staying in the property? Who are you trying to attract here? Because no point. The best example I can give you is, getting like a Hampton style furniture package and putting it in an inner city kind of apartment where it's more of an executive corporate professional, let's say. So just kind of understanding the demographics and who your guest is on top of that. Yeah, it sort of helps you, I suppose.
Well, that makes sense. Let's in the chat, folks. If anyone stayed at an Airbnb and you're like, give us a yes in the chat, away in the chat if you've stayed in a short. And it's not necessarily Airbnb. That's just the most well-known booking engine, really. There's other engines, Cass, right? There's I don't know, stays and all sorts of other ones. But really, let's sort of put this in, because I can see three things that people got to think about before they get going. The cost of your furniture pack, right? So you got to get that done and you got to get it in there. And if you are at a distance, someone's got to do it for you. So a property manager, that's not in the normal scope of a property manager. So you've got to have someone who specializes in that or understands it. That's why you and the team have got an actual department who does it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then the time frame, mate, talk about that for folks listening in. Like people think, oh, I'll turn on Airbnb next week and it'll be sweet, right? So it does take time to run up to it.
Yeah, we call it a bit of a ramp up period. And, generally speaking, we say, look, let's just be smart about it and call it a 2-month ramp up period. The 2 months is going to consist of obviously, understanding that it takes 2 to 3 weeks of your furniture to, get in the property to start with. But also once you do hit the market, the likelihood of maybe getting that first reservation or booking, someone moving in on the weekend is maybe not as highly likely, right? So understanding the guest who books in advance. So again, just having buffers in place and, I guess understanding that there is a ramp up period, but of course,
and working with you guys, because sometimes you can try and like navigate that, okay, in maybe 3 or 4 months time, we're going to go from short term to long term to short term, and has kind of a run up for it. So like have a strategy, have a conversation with your team and get it organized in advance, but it's going to maybe take 2 months to get up to, a decent.
You got a long-term tenancy in place. Most states say you got to give 2 months notice. So, obviously we meet that legislation requirement, but in the meantime, the keys, how's a guest going to get in, like all those, get your photographer lined up, start talking to furniture companies, obviously getting that appraisal done as well, and making sure you know what you're in for and what the cash flow projections are.
Yeah. And, the third one here for me is like, it's not linear, it's lumpy, right? So folks listening in, like, regular long-term rent's kind of like, it's pretty consistent, other than someone not paying the rent, you know what you're going to get and when you're going to get it, and it's regular. Talk to us a little bit about the lumpiness of short-term income.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 parts for me, Jase. It's like, one, it's the operational stuff, right? Like, we've gone through one at the moment where it's like we couldn't get access for the guests at the property, so we had to arrange a local key nest kind of option. So stuff like that. But then from a cash flow point of view, which is what we're discussing today, is 1 month you could get 6-7 grand in the bank, and then the next month it's like 2. And so we
like that. So
and I'll show something. I'll show a live example shortly. But I think it's good to understand that it's not the $500 a week and coming in for 52 weeks of the year, right? I think there's, we got to understand there's peak periods, there's not. Sometimes they're based around events. Like we've got Easter coming up in April, and we've seen obviously some good bookings around that time. There's a bit more public holiday. So just understanding again, location and peak periods and things like that. So you can plan for the next 12 months. So we work really hard in understanding the comparable properties, how they're performing, because sometimes what you'll find, guys, is, just because a property is available for 3 months of the year, it kind of strews the data a little bit, like, because it's like it's not available for 12 months of the year, so the occupancy rate can be out. So we just need to understand, it's got a really high occupancy rate, must be good, but have a look at how long it's actually available for across the 12-month period. And if we do that the right way, Jason, not cut corners, we follow the process, we find we can actually give our clients a more I guess solid kind of cash flow projection over the next 12 months, so we can go in with some confidence and know what we're doing. Yeah,
and be on it. Right. Well, let's have a look at that. I know, like, we've got live example right now, folks. Cass and the team have been doing it for many of our clients. And I called him this morning, caught him on the hop, gave Cass, I need you this morning. And he said, oh, literally, I'm sitting here doing one right now for a client. So let's throw over to that. Let's have a look at sort of, the comparable between short and long, and talk us through it.
Yeah. So hopefully that comes up, Jace. I've shared my screen. There it is, everyone. So we've got a bit of tech, bit of software, allows us to look at these comparable properties that I was mentioning and have a look. And I guess, for us as the agent, for you as the investor, making that decision, we want to make sure you're informed. We want to make sure we've got all the information on the table. So just to talk you through kind of what we deliver, I suppose, on the left-hand side is kind of the breakdown on annual net revenue.
Yeah.
We're talking net figures. And what you'll see, I don't know, Jay, if you can highlight, but in those bars there, you'll see down the bottom, we're working off a 59 to 68% occupancy rate. So
Yeah, so that's interesting. So when you're doing the quotes up, and I'll write a bit of stuff down here for everyone,
yeah,
just kind
yeah.
of like, you know.
I think like people ask me, Jace, like, what's a good measurement? How do I know that this is going to work or not? Like,
Yep.
what occupancy rates? Like, to give you guys an idea, in Melbourne at the moment, occupancy rates are over 80%. I use that because this property I'm giving you guys is in Brunswick, Melbourne. So
Yeah, wow.
occupancy rates in Melbourne are over 80%. You can see maybe I'm being a bit more conservative, but again, understanding the comparables and how long or how much of that they're available over a 12-month period. The
Well,
occupancy
I
rate.
think that's good when it comes to like not going over the top. If it still
Yeah.
works, is there kind of a rule of thumb here for you? Where it's going, if it still works at 60%, then let's give it a
60
whirl.
to 70%. I know I'm
Yeah.
in the game. I know my data's probably pretty accurate. Obviously, if I'm hitting 30, 40%, then there's two things. Either I've got to redo the data or the property's not maybe the right property for this particular strategy in that space.
Well, not every property is suited for it, right?
Yeah.
So, some people go, let's do it on every property. It's like, no, don't do that. Yeah.
60 to 70% gives me a good idea. I'm confident in this space. Of course, what we've seen though, when I say 80% across Melbourne, like that's 45% up year on year, right? Coming out of COVID. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, what we see here is that, okay, if we only achieve 68% occupancy across the 12-month period, in the long-term pool, now in this example, I might have to sort of go back and forth with these graphs, guys, but you'll see in the net revenue breakdown figure, LTR, so long-term rent, this property would rent $600 every day of the week on the long-term market.
Yep.
So on the left-hand side, that grey bar is representing, about $28,000 long-term rent. But you can see based on a 68% occupancy rate, we're at, pushing 50 grand there, 49.5.
So that what you're saying is like let's call it sort of 28 to 50, right? So that's kind of like a $22,000 extra increase, right? So and if we invested, folks, we did the numbers yesterday. If we invested, let's call it 30K, getting furniture and setup and whatever, like the return on that 30K is pretty significant, right? We're talking, folks, sort of 70+% cash on cash return in that first year over and above. And plus, Cass or anyone listening in, when you have a furniture package, what else can you get like significantly in the first 2 years of a with furniture? Folks, put that in the chat for me. Cass probably already knows, I'm sure.
I think someone mentioned it yesterday too.
Yeah. I think Alison said it yesterday. Your depreciation, you can depreciate that furniture pack pretty well within the first 2 years. So you get an extra extra depreciation, which is pretty significant, which is fantastic. So then if that's net revenue, net is in your pocket, folks. Net is in the pocket. Then, that's pretty tidy, Cass.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll see from the net revenue breakdown, the top part there with the weekly revenue. So what we're saying here is $600, even in the low season market, and you'll see the daily rates on the right-hand side there, the breakdown, you can see it's gone from, we're still up, even if we're operating at a 59% occupancy rate in this example, but you can see the benefits of the 68% occupancy rate, basically more than double, right, your long-term weekly rent. So there's obviously some costs involved, management fees, some advertising, etc. as well on top of that. But you can see gross, v net comparison long-term to short-term.
And then you've got to take care of your costs and probably a few other expenses as well. So, in 28 and is pretty tidy.
Yeah. I think as well, just to highlight on those daily rates, the forecast there, like reading an article the other day, like again in Melbourne, 43% up year on year with what we're now seeing in the marketplace. And surprisingly enough, like this is a 1-bedroom apartment, just to give everyone context.
Wow.
Almost 80% of the short-term rental pool in Melbourne right now is 2 bedrooms or less.
Yeah, wow.
Interestingly enough, I didn't realize it was that high, but that's what the data is suggesting. There's obviously been some growth in, 4 or 5 bedroom homes, of course.
Yeah.
Essentially, nearly 80% of Melbourne's STR stock is 1 or 2 beds, which I found really interesting. So it's all pointing in the right direction. And I guess, when you get the right furniture package, understand your guests, you do the numbers correctly. The result for this one, folks, was that literally within the first 24 hours of this property launching live, we got a 29 night stay, and that, Jason, was about 4.5 grand net.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's kind of nice to get that out of the blocks, isn't it? You feel a bit
yeah.
So the whole setup.
600 a week, 2,400 a month. We've now gone to 4,500 in the first month, and it sort of outperforms even what the appraisal says. So it's really cool. There's some really cool stuff happening in the Melbourne market at the moment, which is great.
So I mean, that's great, Cass. We might just sort of leave it there. I mean, folks, if you want any more details, let us know. About having Cass and the team, chat to you about that stuff. You know the drill. If you're in the Positive crew, you've got Cass and his team on the 6-star team, on your 6-star team. But really, mate, at the end of the day, there's plenty of good things that could be possible. What's a couple of downsides on this stuff for people so they don't go in with rose-colored glasses? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, probably the one thing I would say to definitely at least have a conversation about with your professional agent, or even check the research yourself, is obviously there could be some council regulations in place. If you are in a strata complex, do check your bylaws, because that can perhaps make it a little bit more challenging for you and your guest around access and what's allowed, and amenities and just bits and bobs like that. So we need to just understand what kind of setup we do have to the marketplace as well. So that's probably the biggest one, is the regulation side of things. Don't forget, there's still compliance. It doesn't mean we don't do smoke alarms. It doesn't mean we do all the rest of those things. But probably, the biggest thing that I think the downside to it would be potential council and strata bylaws. So just check that first before you move forward. But
and then the other one, I mean, we've solved this now, but sometimes insurance is a little different, and it might be a little bit more expensive. So you got to get the right insurer as well.
Our major partner we like to work with is two. There's obviously Terry Shear, that everyone probably knows about, and EBM Insurance as well, do really good short stay policies. So they're probably the two providers that we would recommend to clients. If anyone wants a copy, I'm more than happy to email that through. But they're pretty good, and it's actually surprisingly not too much more than long term, actually. So it's actually okay. Obviously varies state to state, but again, just
which is pretty good. And you'd think, like the short-term letting businesses would carry their own sort of public liability for the tenant as well. So, it's kind of a team effort, isn't it? Yep. Well, that's great, mate. Well, appreciate that. And listen, folks, where do you provide the service? It's Melbourne and Brisbane at the moment, right? But you've got contacts if people want somewhere else.
Yeah, metropolitan Melbourne and Brisbane is where we operate at the moment.
I've got a live visitor.
Awesome. Yeah, just metropolitan Melbourne and Brisbane, Chase. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, that's it, folks. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Cass, great to have you on this morning, mate. Thanks for being a good sport and jumping on at short notice. But I think it's worth it. And maybe what I might do is, I might see if I could get you to do a little bit of a recording, and we'll whack it in the private mentoring group. And if anyone wants any more info about that, we might do a coaching call on it or something like that. So, all right, folks, that's it. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Say a thank you or a cheers for Cass in the chat. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted, folks. Thanks, mate. I'll catch you a bit later, and I'll finish up right here. All right, folks. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, we do have these happening every day at about 8:10, and make sure you got that in your diary. And this afternoon, the hits just keep on rolling. We do have Wealth, Wine, and Wisdom, and I've got another special guest this afternoon as well. So, if you're up for the double whammy today, which is the coffee in the morning and a glass of vino in the evening, then make sure you join me this afternoon for Wealth, Wine, and Wisdom, folks. It's going to be a cracker. All right, team, that's it. We are done and dusted for Wealth Coffee Chats. Over and out. You guys be awesome, be well, and see you on Monday for another one. Bye now.